There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name, if you didn't guess that, is Kevin McDonald, and we've got a great guest for you today. We've got a guy that has done a tremendous amount of stuff in his life, and he ain't near done yet. He's got a lot of, well, here, let me kind of go over this real quick. He's a seasoned executive, a leadership coach, and a sought-after speaker whose career spans industry giants, groundbreaking startups, and transformative coaching work. He's held key roles in renowned companies like MCI and Walmart and Palm and Facebook, my goodness, Facebook even. And so he's been doing that. He now is the CEO of the Academy of Coaching Excellence, which is an excellent place to be if you want to have excellent coaches out of it, I think. And so, Tom, welcome to the show. How are you?
It's great to be here, Kevin, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm doing great. I hope you are.
Oh, it's an awesome day in Seattle. It's cloudy and it might rain, but that's how we live here.
That's Seattle.
That's it. And that background that I use is a misnomer because that was like one day 5 years ago that it was actually sunny here. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Actually, I've been lucky. Almost every time I've had to go to Seattle, I had some sunshine, and people said we need to recruit you just to stay here if you're bringing the sunshine. But I had a great experience in Seattle. It never rained on me there.
Yeah, and when it doesn't rain here, it's absolutely beautiful because it rains enough that it washes out all the impurities and stuff. So, of course, that ends up in the groundwater, but that's a story for another time. So Tom, welcome to the show, and it's awesome to have you here. And coaching excellence. Tell me about coaching excellence. What is that?
Well, the Academy for Coaching Excellence is a 22-year-old coaching academy. We train coaches all over the world, and it's ICF certified, the International Coaching Federation. We're a level 2 academy, which allows us not only to train and certify coaches, but we're able to offer a program for CEUs, which coaches have to do every year. And our model is an ontological model, which is based on the study of being. So we're not interested in the psychology of what you got, how you got where you are. We're interested in how you're being and how that helps you reach your goals and dreams and find out what you actually came here to do. So we have some classes and courses that start out. The base course is called Mastering Your Life. It's quite transformative. And then you can take a couple paths. You can either go down the coaching path and move into being coach, and in the coach training program, some people even become licensed academy trainers, or you can take a leadership path, and we have a pathway for people that want to use what we teach in leadership and the things they do in their work or in working with others.
That is a fascinating study, and it takes a very interesting turn because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but almost everybody I've ever met at one point in time in their life, and it could be when they're in their 20s or in their 60s or 70s, and that is, why am I really here? And what am I really here to do? Because what I've been doing so far is kind of superficial, and it's really not, it's not deep enough. I want to go deeper. Do you ever have anybody talk like that?
Always. It's I think it's part of the human process growing up. I think there's very few of us that don't ask the question. It's whether you're willing to share that you feel that way, and whether you're actually willing to take some sort of action to understanding and finding out what it is you came here to do.
That is the paramount question that it should be. If it's not, introduce it into your brain, because that should be on the mind of every human that's here, because I believe, Tom, that every human has a purpose. We're not just random willy-nilly here, that we're here to do something that our soul is interested in us doing. Is that kind of along the lines of your philosophy?
Yes, and I mean, Kevin, to expound on that, so many of us try to be someone that people expect us to be or what
Uh-huh.
others want us to be rather than who we are. And at the end of the day, you're still who you are. And it's a much better, I think, journey in this life you have to be who you are and step into that, because there's only one of you.
That's it. And DNA proves that there ain't more than one of us, and by the way, DNA also proves that we are dang lucky to have actually even made it here.
Yes, I think when you think about it, I can't remember the exact number, but it's certainly over millions of chances that a sperm and an egg would meet to form you. And that's a pretty important and amazing thing that happens. So if that odds could happen to make whoever you are into a person, then by all means be who you are.
Well, there ain't nobody else, but what we have in life, and by the way, that's not proper English, but I'll accept it. Um, there are lots of people that have their own viewpoint of what we should do, or who we should be, or how we should act, or what we should do for a living, or all of those things. But and some of them even profess to love us and say, I'm only saying this for your own good. I'm sure you've heard people say that before.
Absolutely, especially different generations. I think the generation you're from, you may have heard even what you're supposed to be or what you could not be.
Yep.
And then there's a few generations where it went the opposite direction and you can be anybody, you can be anything you want to be, which I believe is somewhat true. But I think at the core, we need to find out who we really are, to find out what it is we're going to do and who we're going to be. And most importantly, what did you come here to do?
Exactly. And it is a it's a paramount question, but the answers can be so rewarding at the same time.
Yes. You spend a lifetime doing things that aren't about what you came to do or what you want to do. Some people find it early, some people avoid finding out, but someday something usually happens in life, and I think it opens up a space for us to step into it, or I hope it does for people. The sooner the better.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, in my life story, my father was he didn't understand any of that. So he had a management career for a long time, but when he ceased to be a professional man, he lost himself. He had no idea who he was. And he didn't even know how to go about finding out who he was, because it was such a distant and foreign concept to him.
Yes, yeah. I love working with people. Some of my clients are people that have been working very hard their whole life and they're on the verge of retiring, or they want to shift something and they don't know what that's going to look like. They don't know what that might be. And often it's something you always wanted to do, something you always dreamed to do. And for whatever reason, you didn't step into that arena and give it a whirl and give it a try. So I like to uncover that. I have this thing called the haystack method that I use, and I believe people have their own answers. And people say it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Well, I am in the business of removing your hay, holding the space so we can remove the hay that's clouding your answer so you can get the answer. And often it's something somebody really wanted to do all along and thought they had to reach something, been really successful. And now's the time that they can step into that. And it's really rewarding to find people find out what that is.
It's interesting, in talking again about my father. When he was a young man, he was a really good golfer. And so he was what they call a scratch golfer, meant that he didn't have a handicap because it was just par. And when he retired, I interviewed him like 3 or 4 years after he retired. And I said, if you had your choice, what would you have wanted to do? Now he retired at 59. And
Wow.
so yeah, and there's a story behind that as well. But I asked him, what was it that you would like to do? And he said, I really always wanted to be a golf pro and to run the pro shop and to give lessons or to have and stuff like that. That's really what I always wanted to do. He was 59, Tom. He was not an old man by any stretch. He still could play golf well. He could have pursued that, but he didn't even it was there was some kind of a mental block there, and maybe it was because of his age, and what he'd grown up with. But how do you help people who have that mental block? Oh no, I can't do that, and to help them understand if that's your passion, that's why you're here.
Well, those mental blocks often come from something that's playing out in us that stands in the way. It's usually not our friend. And we have
No.
something at the coaching academy that we uncover in our first course, Mastering Your Life, called the basic assumption. And it's based on a fight, flight, or freeze response. And it's usually not our friend. It's something that started as a pattern, some believe, when we were very, very young. And once we learn it and understand it a little better, it shifts things because you see a pattern in life. So some people are a freeze, like I'm not sure, or I don't know, or a flight, like this isn't it. I can always identify those people in the grocery store, or that can lead me to thinking of it, because they're the people that can't pick an aisle. They can't pick one to get in. Well, and the I'm not sure's and the I don't know's are people that, they think they aren't sure and they don't know. For some reason, it's not about where it came from. We're not interested in the psychology of it. We're interested in how it's keeping me from getting your goals and dreams. Or people that have a fight response and they want to fight everything. Once it's uncovered, which people often have even a physical reaction to it, you can see through your life where it's had an impact, and it makes a big shift on what you're open to look at and what you're open to do, because suddenly there's not a little voice in your ear. We like to call it monkey mind, a monkey swinging from doubt to worry to fear, whatever it is, that's interrupting our ability to think about what it is. And we often know what the answer is, but that little voice. So we help you learn how to calm that voice and focus on what it is that you really want to do to reach your goals and dreams. So clearing that is often the first step in getting people to look more broadly and see what it is they might want to do in their life, or this time in their life.
I'm willing to bet that that creates an epiphany for some people that is profound.
It does. As I said, some people, it's physical. I remember I took this coursework in the late 90s, if you can believe it, before we even had a coaching academy. And for me, it was quite physical. But over the weeks that follow, as you get in touch with it, the weeks and months, and there's even a place you feel it in your body as it's happening. And it's an interesting thing if you see other places in your life where it has shown up and had an impact.
And we don't know why that is happening to us, but it happens to us. That
Yes.
impact, that feeling in your gut or in wherever it manifests itself, and you don't know why it's there. It just is there.
Yes, it is. And the other thing we find is some of us are either so driven that we want to take huge leaps to get somewhere, or the opposite is true, where we are immobilized and we can't take the first step. And we like to talk about taking sweet baby steps. When you do a lot of baby steps, it equals a big leap. And so to start something, start with something that's achievable, something you can do, and build on it, versus trying to take on the whole thing at once.
Because your whole world, when you are living in a certain way and you're not happy with that way, and then you decide to do, like, join the coaching program, and you're doing something completely different, it has there's a lot of unintended consequences, and it may involve family, it may involve a spouse, it may involve because you're changing fundamentally who you are, isn't because to become who you were meant to be, isn't that right?
Yes, yes, it is. It's sort of like stepping out of a skin to reveal your real skin, and it's where the magic happens. People get clarity. People really see one of our taglines in the whole program that our founder likes to say is, "Would it be all right with you if life got easier?" And that's what happens. We make things really, really hard for ourselves sometimes instead of thinking about things that might just make life easier.
By the way, we're talking with Tom LeNoble, and if you go to his website, which is oddly enough tomlenoble.com, that's right, isn't it, Tom?
It is. It is.
And you can find out all about him. His resume is like 300 pages long because he's done a lot of stuff. He's been very, very gifted. And one of the things that he does that I'm hoping that we'll get in, we may not, in which case he's going to have to come back. But one of them is leadership. And I have a piece that I put together about leadership with purpose. I would love your opinion on it. So we're going to play that right now. Here are some points. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would love to see it.
Well, here you go. Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. You know, some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back. I'm a little apprehensive about asking Tom this next question, but what'd you think of that?
I really liked it, Kevin. You know, leadership has many dimensions to it, and I'll share a few things that made me think of. That piece is, you know, often when we build teams, we don't think about that people have something to share. They have things that are core to them. And I love building teams where you recruit and hire to people's strengths. Because what I find happens is when you do that, once you've built the team and it's humming along, then people are willing to stick their little toe into something that they didn't think they could do. And they start working even more cross-functionally. The other thing that we do is we don't listen. We don't listen to what's being said. What we listen to is how we're going to respond. So while someone's talking to us, we have this conversation going in our head about how we're going to respond, not trusting ourselves to respond or thinking we have to have a certain response. Well, there's two things about it. One, you're missing what's being said. And two, the other person knows it. They know you're not listening.
That is so true. You know, I was a district sales manager and I had 11 reports. And I would go on sales calls. You know, we would call them the first time you go to a place and a blind call or where you're going to talk to somebody, or a cold call. You're going to talk to somebody that you don't know, you haven't developed a relationship with, and we would go talk to them, and then the sales guy would say something, and the chef or the manager would respond. Rather than listening to what the gentleman was responding to, we were thinking of, what do we say next? How am I going to handle this objection? What's going to happen? So, and then they end up saying something that sometimes had no relation to what the client or the potential client was trying to say, and it blew up the conversation right then and there, because he was like, well, hell, if you're not going to listen to me, then why are we talking?
Yes, it's so true. We do. There's so many dimensions to leadership. I had one of my favorite clients was a CEO, and I met with him in his office, and I could tell he was really, really perplexed and had a dilemma. So as we started looking at it, he was telling me how he had built this company and that he had open door policies where anybody could come to his office, and that
Oh,
nobody
sure.
was talking. Those open door policies, and that nobody would talk to him, and that he didn't think people liked him. And we went on and on and on. And finally, I looked at him and I said, "This is very, very simple." And he goes, "What is it? What is it?" And I said, "It's very, very simple. Have you ever thought about getting up out of your chair and going out the door and visiting the people instead of waiting for the people to come through your open door?" It was a revelation for this man and changed everything that he was doing. He was actually a great leader, but didn't have this one point down of something that might seem so simple to us, was waiting for people to come see him because he had wanted to bring them in thinking that would be important to them, when that was the thing they had the fear of most, was going into that office and not knowing what was going to happen.
Oh, exactly. Because and then you have as an employee, you have absolutely no idea. I did want to ask you, um, how many CEOs did you talk to? I'm convinced that there are many who, if you said, "Okay, let's go to the employee lunchroom," I bet you there's some of them that couldn't even find the place.
Yes, I think that's true. Or they will tell you how wonderful it is and all the things they did to make it a comfortable place, and feels too risky. Back in the day when I was running large customer service centers, contact centers, one of my favorite things to do was to bring the executives and then put them on with the customer, have them answer phone calls. Well, if you want to see some scared executives, but it turned out to be the best thing ever because the customers were blown away, didn't even believe that's who they were talking to. But it was one of the best ways to get things done because they actually talked to the customer and realized not only what the people that were serving the customer were going through, but actually heard some of the customer's needs unfiltered.
That is powerful. That is so important that a CEO do it. But I know they get busy and they get wrapped up in stuff. But this is a fundamental thing about running your company, because you you want people to feel comfortable then, and to come up with creative ideas and thoughts, and you can't be a guy behind a desk. You need to be a real person, don't you?
Well, as you just showed us, that's what leadership with purpose is about, is how you create a space where people will be able to share their ideas and you don't end up in your office where there's so many layers between you and other people that the information you're getting is so filtered, you don't hear what the real issues are from the people that are actually doing the actual work. And it's so important to peel that back every now and then and make sure those are real things you're getting and hearing.
You know how it is in the CEO's office. There's a secretary who is there guarding the door, as it were. So it's never an open door policy. The door may be open, but there's somebody there guarding the door. And
Yes.
and then you end up sitting down, and generally speaking, you have got a report or two or three between you and the CEO. And so you're gonna have a mid-level manager that is gonna find out that you're at the CEO's office, and he's gonna want to know why. So it can
Yes.
be a very destructive moment in time, can't it?
It can be because you feel like you're welcomed in and maybe you're not.
And we've lost Tom here for just a second. I'm hopeful that he will be back in just a second. Um And Tom, he may have to close out and come back. So he is, and by the way, we're talking with Tom LeNoble, and go to his website, which is tomlenoble.com, and you can find out all about him and what he does. He's a coach, he's a leader, he's worked for some major companies, and he's done some really cool things. And he is, so we are going to be back in just a second. And so why don't I do this? Why don't we play a commercial, and then when he'll make it back in time, and then we'll continue with our interview with Tom LeNoble. And we'll be right back. This is very interesting stuff. Stay with us, everybody. The Fire That Doesn't Die by Positive Talk Radio. Success never shows up overnight. It tests you. It breaks you. It asks, how much do you want it and how badly do you believe? Amazon answered that question for 9 long years with no profits, only vision. At Positive Talk Radio, our fight began in 2003. Self-funded, no spotlight, no guarantees, only faith that hope and love can change lives. For over 2 decades now, we've kept showing up, keep speaking light into the darkness. And now, hey, we're still here, stronger, louder, inspiring hearts across the world. Because true greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you refuse to fall. And welcome back, everybody, to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Rochelle's off today, and Tom LeNoble is here. And you know, sometimes technology gets in the way, but we managed to make it work. And I got to tell you, Tom, I am just absolutely honored to have you here.
Thank you, Kevin. It's really an honor to be here. I am really great we're spending this Labor Day together.
I know. And by the way, everybody is off but me.
And me. We're the only two, Kevin.
Isn't that always the way when because I have a little team and I respect them, and I want to make sure that they have the value and stuff, and so I work. Did you find in your career that you worked maybe harder than your people that worked for you?
You know, I had some great people that did, but I think what that real question leads to is how we model for others and how important that is. Because without clear objectives and without clear direction, we can model that behavior of working 60 and 70 hours a week. And other people with families really can't do that. And or they have things going on in their life, or maybe they're a little more sane than we are. But we need to monitor how we do that. It's sort of like the same thing that happens with people that they get home at night and they go back and they kick it in again. And people walk in the next morning and there's a flurry of emails of to-dos, or even worse, they send them out that night. And if you're an executive, it's really bad because people think of your title. No matter how much they think about you and appreciate you and like you, they still remember who you are and that you're in charge. And this kind of behavior can be really destructive in an organization. So work as many hours as you want, make sure you're modeling the right thing for your people.
And here's the one thing, Tom, that you can help me with that I think happens way too much in corporations. You have a really good worker, somebody that does a really good job, and they can actually do more than one person's job. So then you have the bright idea of saying, you know, we could save some money because she works really hard and she's really good at what she does. And so we will just pull back the support staff for her because she can do it. So now when she's working 45 or 50, she's now working 55 or 60 to keep up. And she gets burned out, and then she leaves. And then he finds it takes 3 people to replace the one person. That happens a lot, doesn't it?
A lot, especially when people have been there for a long time, because once you've been there for a long time in one position, you get really good at it, and it appears you have more room, or with people who are willing to take on more and never say no, which leads us to the whole art of saying no. But I'm with you. It leads to a really bad case of BO, burnout. And burnout to an organization is contagious, and it is one of the hardest things to recover from, not only in your organization, but for your people, because the recovery from it is much harder and much less effective and will cost you far more money than being aware of it before it happens. I have a company right now that's where it's going, is everybody's working so hard because they're trying to be focused on a budget and making what that means. And what I like to do is take people through an exercise. It's old school, but it's great still. You take down what you're working on, you force rank it 1, 2, and 3, and the 3s don't get to happen. And you should see what people go through trying to justify that those 3s need to happen. But if you think about what we just did, we ranked things into priority. And if you're making everything a priority, then there is no priority. So, but these kinds of behavior where we don't acknowledge that and we try and take on too much lead to a really bad situation that is much harder to recover from. It's almost like the same thing, but opposite of hiring and desperation. I see so many people, I'm desperate for headcount, so I hire. If you hire out of desperation, I guarantee you, whether it's a month, a week, 2 months, or a year, you will clean it up, and it will be much more costly than if you'd taken the time to find the right person for the right position.
I couldn't agree more. And Tom, when we get back, I'm just going to take this real quick station break. And then when we come back, I got an important question to ask you that nobody has been able to answer to my satisfaction yet. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
And we are talking with Tom LeNoble. And Tom, I have asked a lot of people that have been around businesses and stuff. I always ask them on the P&L, and I'm sure you've seen hundreds and hundreds of P&Ls, which is a profit and loss statement. And I say to these people, have you ever seen a line on the P&L, because it's got expenses and it's got how much you're bringing in and stuff. You get to the very bottom, and then you have a profit or a loss. And I've always asked people, is there a line on the P&L and a number that you associate with turnover? And nobody can ever tell me that that is part of their planning, part of their execution, and part of the P&L, which makes it really difficult, because turnover is hugely expensive and it's not accounted for, isn't it?
It is, and we call that an attrition rate. And some people don't realize there's positive and negative attrition. Positive attrition is when someone decides to leave and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Your organization will be better. Or negative attrition, where you're losing people and you shouldn't. Now, if you run a big operation such as a call center, a contact center, or a warehouse, any of those kinds of things, your lifeblood is that people show up. So the thing to do is you have an effective workforce management system that allows you to forecast it, and it's only as good as the data you put in it. So if you're not getting down granular in what you put in it and factor in every little thing from breaks to vacations to what happens if I've got a group of people that are taking the same van to work every day because they're carpooling and that van breaks down, what is going to happen in this operational environment that is heavily relying on people? Well, your workforce management system in this case helps you recover. But back to your question, if you're not factoring in an attrition rate, then what you're going to do is get caught with your proverbial pants down and not reach the goals you've set because there aren't people there. So there should always be a succession plan in place. And if you're a good executive, you're managing it. It's not just about executives of who's going to take the next seat as people get promoted or leave. It's about every part of your organization, and everyone is playing in it and understands what it means and how it relates to them, so that you have a forecast based on history, based on what your goals are and where you're trying to get, that instead of attrition being something that manages you, you're managing it.
Makes way too much sense. Why don't more people do it?
I think that, we lose sight of what's important in some of these decisions that make things tick. Many people do, or they want to hide them. There's plenty of places that don't want you to know their attrition rate, because not only does it look negative to the public, but if your future employees, prospects see it and they see that's what your attrition rate is without it being explained, it doesn't go along with how you might promote your company. But on the executive team, even down in the management team, not having a discussion about what it means and staying ahead of it is critically important. I think what's really more important is when you see it, what is happening in the company? What are you doing that you can shift to lower your attrition rate where people aren't wanting to leave, except the normal things that happen in our lives that require it, but where people are engaged and want to be part of your organization, are not thinking about leaving, which typically comes from not understanding what people do need, or not managing where they understand their objections, or just what you just said, asking them to do more than's reasonable. There are so many reasons that this can happen, but it should be part, I think, of how you manage your business, is understanding proactively what makes people want to stay in your organization. And it's typically things like having a voice, having a say in what I do, being able to suggest improvements, not just being told this is how it is or this is what you need to do, having little flexibility to be able to actually take a day off when you need to.
That is a really big deal. That your mother-in-law is coming to town and you haven't gotten along all that well, but she's going to be staying at your house, and you need to support your wife in that day. And so you would really like to take the day off because it's it's your family and it's going on there. And there's some people, oh no, you can't take the day off. Do you have any vacation, by the way? Do you have any vacation accrued? Or didn't you take time off 2 weeks ago and that took all your accrued vacation? That is not compassionate employerism, as far as
I call it what happens is we have the kindergarten syndrome. So what has happened is you've had a problem. So now we treat everyone the same way because you had one issue, instead of treating them like adults. You handle people on an individual basis. You let people have some flexibility. You let people make sure things are covered. You empower them to ensure that if you want to take a day off, that you've done whatever the procedure is to make sure that that's easy and can be done with ease, rather than do it and put in elaborate attendance policies and elaborate things of punitive things that are not going to stop people from taking off a day when they need to. And then that leads right up to attrition, because now you're managing people out that actually had some event happen. And the worst part is when we do it like it's kindergarten, where one kid takes a nap. One kid does something and we all have to take a nap. I had this experience years ago in one company where they asked me to take over a credit and collections department. I had zero experience. And if you have ever had to deal with credit and collections, you want to be as far from it as you can. And they were having a problem collecting money. And I went and I started talking to them, and I realized there was this procedure in place, and they had a credit limit that was less than what the amount of the order was. So the process was, then it got bumped to the supervisor. They had a credit limit that if it was more than that, it had to go to a manager. So what's happening is, not only is the customer not being fulfilled on what they need, but instead of leading and coaching, instead of people doing what they really need to be doing to mentor and grow a team, or instead of the agent feeling empowered, what's happening is it's miring up things either on a piece of paper or in a computer in someone's queue, taking them away from those things. So after I learned this and I understood it, I went to the CFO and I said, I just changed the credit limit on everybody. And his first reaction was, they'll give away the bank. And I said, here's what we'll do. If that happens, you can fire me. I don't believe that will happen. I believe if we empower people to do the right thing, they will. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll build a report for you that shows the outliers of who's giving too much. And he goes, oh, that's good. And I said, but here's what else I'm going to do. I'm going to build a report of the outlier of who's not giving enough. Because just as people might give too much, which is likely not to happen, you need to be concerned about who's not giving enough. Because if they're not giving what the average or near it is, that means they're withholding things that the customer should get. So we're going to look at both. Well, I didn't get fired and it all worked out. We started answering a lot more calls, collecting a lot more money. And the real benefit is people were empowered to do the job that you hired them to do without handcuffs.
Empowerment is a big reason why people stay, or lack of empowerment to leave.
It is. It is. We want to go and we want to work for somebody, but we want to use our brain. We want to be able to feel like we can make a difference. We want to be able to express our ideas, and that if I'm sitting in this chair doing something and I see a better way, that somebody is willing to listen and know that I'm the one doing the job, and perhaps I have something to share with you that could help it better for make it better for everyone, and for what our overall goals and what we're trying to achieve in the organization or the department.
You know, Tom, I gotta say, you are one smart cookie, and you've been worked for a lot of major companies, and you're now working for people on a consultant basis. Are you doing that as well now?
I do that. I do a lot of board retreats or working with teams, and I don't do any cookie cutter approaches. I have a process where I don't just pull something off the shelf and go execute it. I do some research, meet with some people, and what I like to call pull out themes of what's going on to build something. So I in my coaching, I do it not only individually, I do it with teams, and look at what the root things are as we're coming up, let people have a voice, and then protect the people that are willing to know that they're saying things to me in confidence, so that I'm not using their words, I'm using what the themes were for what I'm hearing to shift what's happening.
Be still, my foolish heart. You're actually preparing rather than
Yes.
just throwing something out there and saying, this is good for everybody.
It's the only way, I think, to make it effective. Otherwise, people are just, I had a nonprofit recently, and they came to me and they had heard about my work and they wanted me to do a 2-day retreat for them. And so after meeting with them, I shared with them, if you do a two-day retreat, as you've described it, you will have absolutely no movement. Nothing will have changed after the 2-day retreat is over. And I made my proposal to them to spend time with each person. In this case, it was the stakeholders that were going to be there, to build this retreat that was based on what the actual issues were in their organization. We uncovered some things that I actually helped them with. I worked and led HR in organizations. We uncovered some things that were really people related that needed to be resolved, that have been going on for a long time. Because if you take this into the retreat, your retreat, instead of being something about experiential things or a strategic plan, are going to end up being about this same issue you've been hashing out over and over again because no one took action. So in that case, we took some action, so we didn't bring that into the retreat and made it more effective. The other thing I love to do is, depending on the organization, is customize it so it has a little bit to do with what they do. One of my favorites was a performing arts organization. So the experiential work we did as groups, I based it around things that were based on the theater and performing, not just just the rote, off the shelf kind of exercises.
And that keeps everybody engaged and
Yes.
and feeling good about it, and wanting to participate, which is one of those deals. If nobody feels comfortable, nobody wants to participate.
Yes. And I frame it from the very beginning. I'm going to ask you to share, and I have no problem calling names.
That makes everybody just a little nervous.
Yeah.
And Tom, you've been doing this for a long time. I get the sense that you love what you do. You love helping people live a life that they truly wish to live. And when we come back from this break, which is it's something that I hope everybody will listen to, I want to talk more about that, because at the end of the day, I talk to a lot of hospice workers, and they tell me that one of the biggest not complaint, but the biggest regret that people have when they are on their deathbed and they know that they're not going to be here very long is that they regret not doing the things in life that they always wanted to do and never did, and or the people they never loved, or the person that they never reached out to. You know what I mean? And that was a big deal for a lot of people. So we need to take this quick break, and we'll be right back. We're talking with Tom LeNoble, and go to his website again, which is tomlenoble.com, and we will be right back. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald. Tom LeNoble is right there. Tom, it's such a pleasure to have you here. You are so gifted at what you do. And go to tomlenoble.com. That's LENOBLE.com. Find out all about him and how you can work with him and how he coaches individuals and groups and teams. And I guarantee you, if you're the CEO of a company and you have the ability to work with Tom, at the end of a quarter, maybe the end of the 2 quarters, you'll see that I'll bet your profits are going up, and it's all because of Tom. So he would be a wise investment to make. And so you agree with that, I assume, Tom?
I do. Thank you, Kevin. And I loved what you just showed there about being kind. It's so easy to be kind. And I love this concept where we think about that. Remember, just saying hello or smiling at someone, you never know what you're going to shift in their day. So I had to take a moment to say, yay for kindness.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, like I think I may not have told you, but I drove a bus in Seattle for 12 years.
Wow.
And so when I had the ability, and I tried to say hello to everybody and be kind to everybody, but because there were some people that may not have talked to anybody for 2 days, and nobody had smiled at them, and nobody had said thank you, and just the normal things that we're all used to. And some people just don't get that because of the situation that they're in. But it can change their day, it can change their week, it can change everything about them. It
Yes.
really is a magical concept. And Tom, it's so damn easy.
It is. And I think there's another side to it. We forget that sometimes you don't get the response you're expecting. Well, remember, that's your expectation. And to remember, we have times when we're not really wanting to communicate either. But it leads me to a whole thing that we probably have to talk about another day, which is the philanthropic mindset. People think that philanthropy is about having money and having your name on a building or going to a gala. You can have a philanthropic mindset by just smiling at someone.
Exactly. And that is so important. And yes, I do want to have you back, Tom, and we can talk about that as well. Although we've got 14 minutes. Can we do something in 14 minutes?
Of course I can. I think you asked me something about hospice. I want to hear what that question was.
Oh, the question of hospice was that many hospice workers will tell me that at the end of someone's life, when they recognize that their time is up, and they will say, the biggest regret that I have is that I didn't follow my heart and I didn't do what I knew was my mission to be here, what my life was about. And it might be the people that I didn't reach out to, might be so, but it always had regrets for something they did not do that was in their heart to do, but for whatever reason they didn't have the courage to do it. Because doesn't it take a little bit of courage to do that?
It does, and we get hung up in what I call the coulda, woulda, shouldas. And what a time at the end of your life. I mean, if you're ready to leave and you're thinking about things that you didn't do that you could have done, and you didn't, it's all the more reason for all of us that are living today to remember we got up today. We woke up. Some people didn't. This is your day. I love to say to people, enjoy this day, because life is like that. You never know. And what better day to think about what it is I'm here to do, what I want to do, and follow that dream. And we think we just can't. And it's a great way to get a coach, or take a course, or enroll in an art class. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the next Van Gogh. It doesn't mean that you're going to sing the next opera. But if it's something you always wanted to do, step into it. If you always wanted to build something, if you always wanted to do something that seems like it's not the thing that you do, well, you may be the one that was put here to do it. You never know. It doesn't mean throw out your job so you can't pay the light bill, but there's room in life to do some of these things that we want to do. I know so many people that will try something new. They'll try something new while they're doing something that they feel like they must do, and they do. They need to keep the kids fed. They need to keep the roof over our head. But in just stepping into that thing that they always wanted to do, suddenly they see the possibility, I could do this. This is what I could be doing.
Exactly. I often say on this show, and I would love your opinion about whether or not you think I need to be on medication. And that is this. I believe that before I even got here, that doing this with my life was what I wanted to do, and what and it, and and I felt compelled to do it before I even got here. And so everything in my life, both good and challenging, all the experiences have led up to me being able to do this today, because this is my passion. This is what I'm here to do. And I'm here to do today is to talk to Tom LeNoble.
You know, my business is based on risk, resilience, and reinvention. It's really important that we remember right here, right now is what we have. So many of us live in what happened, what we didn't do, what happened yesterday, our disappointments, what somebody did to us. Here's the fact. Unless you can learn something, there are no do-overs. You're not going to get to recreate it. You're not going to be able to change it. You're not going to be able to rework it. And while you're spending time on it, you're missing what's happening right here in the present. That could be as simple as a butterfly flying by or your next big dream, but right here is where it's happening. Now we have to step in the future a little bit, because again, we have to make sure the light bill's on, there's food in the refrigerator, gas in the car, whatever those essentials are. But even if we get too far in the future, we're missing what's happening right now. But the biggest one is living in the past, and the idea that you're going to have a do-over and that something's going to change. Let go of it. Use it as something that builds resilience. I think of resilience as just like we go and exercise our bicep and tricep to have big arms and be strong. Resilience is that way too. Exercise your resilience muscle. Resilience isn't about getting back up when you fall down. It's more than that. It's about using these things in life that I call terrible gifts. There's something terrible that we didn't want to happen. What often happens is a year, 5, sometimes 10 years, we look back and we got a gift out of it. I call those terrible gifts. Resilience is not only about getting back up, but getting back up and growing from it and using it to do more. My favorite quote by Maya Angelou is, "Every storm runs out of rain." Never forget that whatever the storm is in your life right now, the sun is shining on the other side of the storm. It will pass. And when it does, dust yourself off, pick yourself back up. What did the storm maybe have taught you as you move forward?
And there's always going to be a storm, but the storm always ends.
Always. Anybody tells you that life is going like this for them, they're either not living or they may just not be alive. Life is a series of ups and downs. What I feel happens is in what we perceive to be the downs is where we have opportunities to learn. The ups is where we have an opportunity to express what we learn, knowing that there's going to be another opportunity to learn or another storm.
Did anybody ever tell you you're pretty dang brilliant?
Thank you, Kevin.
Because that I agree with that 1,000,000%, because life, and I get tired of people saying, "Oh man, life is hard. Everything is tough. I can't. It's just a horror. It's just always hard and difficult and stuff." I consider life to be a grand adventure. Does that mean that I'm not going to fall down and skin my knees from time to time? Of course I'm going to. That's part of life. But if you have the attitude that it's a grand adventure, it seems to me to work out a whole lot better for you. What do you think?
It does. I agree with you. In fact, there's research that proves it. Those that live in a state of that, oh, what's happening to me and everything, leads to really bad health outcomes.
Yeah.
Whereas if you live from a place of having a little joy and resilience in life and looking forward to what's coming, no matter how difficult, leads to better outcomes. I could share so many examples of that happen with people, some people that we know that are famous that have overcome things that are far, far greater than the things we like to play in, that have happened to us, that have gone on to achieve great things. So is it easy? Maybe not. Is it complex? Maybe so. Is it worth pursuing and seeing if you can get there? 100%.
It's the only thing. And I get to talk to people all the time that have faced adversity and they've come out the other side. And many of them, Tom, say, I now appreciate those things much more than I ever did before because they made me the person I am today. Does that make sense?
It does. It is actually true. I have a book coming out really soon, and the whole point of this book is a memoir that looks at different stages in our life. Sometimes have shame over it, or it was too outrageous to share, or we think others will judge us for it, or we don't think it could empower others. Well, what I want the reader to see when they read this book is that all the stages of your life, everything happened, create who you are today. Without them, you would not be who you are today. And to embrace them and know that you are the product of all these things that you happened in your life, and that in thinking about them, speaking to them, and talking about them, not only are you doing yourself a favor, but you're empowering and sharing with others about the possibility and that they are human just like you.
That's brilliant. That is just brilliant. By the way, go to tomlenoble.com and find out more about him and work with him. I guarantee you're not going to regret it. And Tom, we've run out of time. Sadly, you're going to have to come back because I'm not done. I ain't done talking to you yet. We got a lot more to talk about. But is there anything that you would like to specifically leave our audience with before we go?
I would love to come back, Kevin. It's been a delight talking to you. I thank you so much. And what I'd like to leave your audience with is to remember to make the most of this day. Again, you woke up this day, you've got this day ahead of you, and to do everything you can to enjoy it. Life has many difficulties. Life has many storms, and never, ever forget that every storm runs out of rain. Hang in there.
That's beautiful. And as an epitaph, I'll just say that my mother thought she was going to live to be 112. And on a particular Wednesday, she went out to dinner. On Thursday, she played bridge. She was supposed to go to a party on Saturday. She was very active, and they came to her house, and she died on Friday. You never know when that day is going to happen.
Never know.
Don't waste any time between now and then.
Absolutely. And remember to tell the people you love that you love them. And remember to smile at strangers. You never know what you might be doing.
And it can have a remarkable effect. And even when I was driving the bus, Tom, and I would say hello to everybody, only 20% of the people responded to me, and that was perfectly okay with me. That had nothing to do with me. That was their deal. I was doing my part.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So everybody just do your part. And if we all did our part, this world would be a whole lot more fun to be around.
Isn't that the truth?
Tom LeNoble, thank you so much. And when the book comes out, and before the book comes out, I want to promote it. So you'll need to come back and we'll talk.
I'd love to do that. Thank you, Kevin.
It's been my joy. You are an amazing man, and he's got a lot of knowledge, guys. Don't utilize it now before he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore, which probably will never happen. So, thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a delight.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.